In Forsaken, you spend most of your time playing as a survivor, and if you want to be effective, you need to learn how to counter every killer. And today's video, we'll be doing just that. I'll be giving you guys a list of tips to help you against all the killers in Forsaken. The first tip, which applies to every killer, is just to learn how to loop, juke, and manage your stamina. This is obviously essential against every killer. You should be finding good spots to loop and juke the killer. Please don't try to juke out in the open. Usually it's not gonna end well, and most importantly, never let your stamina go below 10. One X. To counter him, one of the easiest things you can do is just seek high ground. Since he is a ranged character, his projectiles go straight. So if you have a high ground position, that already directly counters 1X moveset. If you're in a flat map against 1X, what most people do at the start of the game is start doing generators. And this is fine, but once you hear this sound, get off the generator, because 1X is going to want to capitalize on people doing generators to do chip damage on survivors. If 1X is chasing you, do not go in a direct line because he can stun you. You want to move unpredictably, since it'll make it 10 times harder for him to hit his abilities. If you see him charging up a ranged attack, you usually just want to move the opposite way of where you were already moving to dodge it. So if you are strafing left and you hear him charging up his attack, strafe right last second. Cool Kid. He's what I would call a linear killer, which means that his abilities are linear. So if you're able to be unpredictable, you can make it harder for him to absolutely destroy you. So for example, something like Walk Speed Overdrive, you don't want to walk in a predictable manner, because if you do, he is just going to hit a nasty combo on you. But if you're able to dodge it and be unpredictable, then you gain a ton of distance between you and him, because when a Cool Kid misses his Walk Speed Overdrive, it is one, embarrassing, and also just gives survivors a ton of time to regroup and run away. Cool Kid can also apply extra pressure with his clones on top of the ridiculous speed that he has. So you don't want to be camping in places where you're susceptible from being squished in by his minions and himself. For example, Brandon's place. You don't want to wait until he summons his clones and flanks the other side of the castle. You want to start making a move before he can do that. Aside from that, I mean, it's Cool Kid, bro. Good luck with that. John Doe. He's a very manipulative killer in the sense that he's very good at closing you in and trapping you. Like the advice I gave with Cool Kid, you don't want to stay in a spot where John Doe can easily close off your exits and just get an easy kill on you. John Doe, out of everyone, has an M1 that's very easy to detect and juke. His corrupted energy is also something that you want to move unpredictably and in the open to make sure that you don't get closed off. With John Doe, it's pretty situational. You don't want to be in an enclosed space because he can shut you down quickly and leave you with limited options, which is easier for him to predict your movements. And even though it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, you want to have an easy access to an open space so you don't get closed off. And since his M1s are more predictable than other killers, you have a better chance in kind of being out in the open, even though with most killers you want to find some place that has a lot of obstacles that you can loop and juke with. But in certain scenarios, it can be beneficial for you to be in the open against John Doe. If you're able to time his M1s, it's definitely way more beneficial than being in some place where he could just corrupt energy, leave a digital footprint, and then you're cooked. Jason. I think a really good Jason is very annoying and hard to counter, and there really aren't good counters. I think if everyone plays distance and rotate constantly around Jason, so basically just kind of play the opposite side of where he's at, this makes it harder for him to win, because Jason is a very good speed killer. What I mean by that is usually Jasons can snowball kills fast and end the game. Not only that, but he can counter stuns too, so sticking with Sentinels isn't going to be as beneficial as it would against other killers. Even juking isn't as effective because Jason has so many different ways to attack close range. No matter how good you are, he's a high threat and he's the hardest to juke. So with Jason, the only real good tip I can give is that you should constantly rotate around him to waste his time on kills and secure a win for survivors. Some good survivors that are always good to have that do well against most killers, someone like Chance, just because he can stun from a distance. Some people don't think he's that good just for the reason that His stun time depends on the distance he's shooting from, but I think even if it's a 1-second stun, this can still throw the killer off their rhythm. Builderman will always be a very good addition to the team. He can heal multiple people at a time with his dispenser. His turrets make the killer waste time and slows the killer, which helps other survivors in a chase. Noob and 007 are also some good pickups for a team, because in some instances, if you're against a really good Jason, most of the time, everyone will just end up dying. So having a really effective last man standing can be the one factor that makes survivors win games. Other survivors can be good pickups too, but these are my personal recommendations. Those were the most important tips I can give you guys without it being survivor specific, just kind of like general tips to give you guys an extra edge next time you play Forsaken. If there's other tips that I didn't say that y'all think is important, make sure to drop them in the comments. And since you guys have made it to this point in the video, you might as well subscribe. Only 0.2 of my viewers are actually subscribed. It helps out the channel a ton. Don't forget to also like the video, since that tells me you guys want to see more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.